like me.
Not quite, babe. Max only cost $1 million.
Yes, I know, Max, $1 million.
She wasn't supposed to survive. The Bionic Woman was killed off in her first appearance, buried, mourned, and forgotten. But the audience wouldn't let her go. They flooded the network with letters, phone calls, demands. And suddenly, Jaime Sommers rose from the dead. But resurrection came with a price. The lead actress fought for equal pay and lost. One episode was banned for decades. And the iconic sound effect, it was stolen from a completely different show. These are 20 weird facts about the Bionic Woman. And the bonus? There's a secret episode most fans have never seen. Let's power up. Number 1. Jaime Sommers wasn't meant to be a hero. She was meant to die. When Lindsay Wagner first appeared on The $6 Million Man in 1975, playing Steve Austin's childhood sweetheart turned Bionic Woman, the storyline was simple and tragic. Jaime receives bionic implants after a skydiving accident, but her body rejects them. She loses her memory, doesn't recognize Steve, and in the final gut-wrenching scene, she dies on the operating table while Steve watches helplessly. The end. A tragic 2-part episode designed to give the show's hero some emotional depth, but the network didn't anticipate what happened next. Viewers went ballistic. Thousands of letters poured in, furious, heartbroken, demanding answers. How could they kill her, bring her back? The switchboards lit up, the rage was real, and the producers realized they'd made a massive miscalculation, so they scrambled. Within months, they crafted a resurrection storyline claiming Jaime had been cryogenically frozen, revived, and given a second chance at life. It was medically nonsensical, narratively awkward, and fans didn't care. She was back. And that desperation move, that last-minute save, gave birth to one of the most iconic female action heroes of the 1970s.
The same life-saving surgery on Jaime.
What's wrong, Steve?
Number 2. Lindsay Wagner didn't audition for the role. She manifested it, literally. Months before The Bionic Woman existed, Wagner was studying metaphysics and visualization techniques, trying to shape her career through intention. She wrote down exactly what she wanted: a strong, intelligent, multi-dimensional female character on television who wasn't just a love interest or a damsel. She wanted a hero. Then one day, her agent called. Kenneth Johnson, the producer developing a new character for The $6 Million Man, wanted to meet her. No audition, just a conversation. Johnson had seen her work and thought she had the right energy, grounded, warm, but tough. Wagner walked into the meeting and discovered the character was everything she'd been visualizing. A woman with bionic powers, yes, but also a school teacher, someone compassionate and complex. She said yes immediately. And when Jaime Sommers became a phenomenon, Wagner would later say she wasn't surprised because she'd already seen it happen in her mind months before the cameras ever rolled. Whether you believe in manifestation or coincidence, the result was undeniable. The role found her, or she found it, and it changed television history. Number 3. The show's iconic sound effect, that distinctive bionic powering up noise, wasn't created for the Bionic Woman. It was stolen. Well, not stolen exactly, but borrowed, recycled, and repurposed from the $6 Million Man, which itself had lifted it from stock sound libraries. The noise, a strange mechanical hiss mixed with electronic warbling, became so synonymous with bionic action that audiences assumed it was custom-made. But sound engineers later admitted it was cobbled together from existing effects. A jet engine, a camera shutter, and signal interference, all layered and distorted. What made it work wasn't originality, but repetition. Every time Jaime used her bionic ear to eavesdrop, her bionic arm to lift something impossible, or her bionic legs to leap over a fence, that sound played. It became Pavlovian. You heard it, you knew something superhuman was happening. And for a show working on a tight television budget, reusing that sound wasn't just practical, it was essential. The Bionic Woman didn't have the budget for extensive special effects, so the sound did the heavy lifting. It told the audience what they were seeing even when the visuals couldn't quite sell it. And somehow that scratchy recycled noise became more iconic than any expensive effect ever could. Number 4. Lindsay Wagner fought the network for equal pay and lost. When The Bionic Woman spun off into its own series in 1976, Wagner assumed she'd be compensated fairly. After all, she was the lead, the title character, the reason the show existed. But the network disagreed. Lee Majors, who starred in The $6 Million Man, was making significantly more per episode, despite the shows being sister series with similar ratings. Wagner pushed back. She argued for equity, for recognition that her show was just as valuable. The network refused. They claimed Majors was an established star, and Wagner was still new. She wasn't new, she was just a woman. The fight got ugly. Wagner considered walking away entirely, but she loved the character too much. She loved what Jaime represented to young girls watching at home. So she stayed, but not silently. She became an advocate for equal pay in Hollywood, speaking publicly about the disparity, the dismissiveness, the double standard. And while she didn't win that battle in 1976, her voice added to a movement that would eventually force change. Decades later, Wagner would say the fight was worth it, not because she got what she deserved, but because she refused to pretend it didn't matter. Number 5. The show had a banned episode. For nearly 30 years, one episode of The Bionic Woman was pulled from syndication, locked away, and never spoken about. The episode, titled Deadly Music, featured Jaime investigating a mysterious sound weapon being used for mind control. Sounds harmless, right? Except the plot involved a rock concert, subliminal messaging, and the implication that music could be weaponized to manipulate young people. When it first aired in 1976, parents' groups exploded. They claimed the episode was dangerous, that it glorified brainwashing, that it would give kids nightmares or worse ideas. The network pulled it after the initial broadcast and buried it. It didn't appear in reruns, wasn't included in early DVD releases, and became a ghost episode whispered about by hardcore fans who remembered seeing it once and never again. It wasn't until the mid-2000s, when the complete series was finally released, that Deadly Music resurfaced. And when modern audiences finally watched it, they were baffled. The episode wasn't scandalous or graphic. It was a standard bionic adventure with a sci-fi twist. But in 1976, it crossed a line, and for 3 decades, it paid the price. Number 6. The bionic effects were laughably low-tech. When Jaime ran at superhuman speed, the production used one trick: slow motion. They'd film Wagner running normally, then slow the footage down to make it look more dramatic. The problem? It didn't look fast. It looked floaty, dreamlike, and occasionally absurd. But they leaned into it because they had no choice. The budget didn't allow for complex visual effects or wire work. So every bionic feat relied on clever camera angles, strategic edits, and Wagner's commitment to selling the illusion. When she lifted a car, the car was on a hidden rig. When she jumped over a fence, she jumped onto a trampoline just out of frame. When she punched through a wall, the wall was pre-scored foam. It was practical, old-school television magic, and it only worked because the audience wanted to believe. And Wagner? She never broke character. She played every bionic moment with complete sincerity. No winks, no irony. She treated the rubber walls and slowed down footage like they were real, because to Jaime, they were. And that conviction, that refusal to acknowledge the absurdity, made it work. The effects were cheap, but the performance was priceless. Number 7. Lindsay Wagner did most of her own stunts and nearly died doing them. The network didn't want her to. They had stunt doubles on standby, insurance policies in place, and strict safety protocols designed to protect their star. But Wagner insisted. She wanted Jaime's physicality to feel authentic, grounded, real. She didn't want audiences seeing someone else's body in wide shots, someone else's hands throwing punches, someone else running for their life. So she trained relentlessly. She learned to fall without breaking bones, to fight without flinching, to run through explosions without hesitation. She worked with stunt coordinators for weeks, absorbing techniques that usually took months to master. And in one episode, she nearly paid for that commitment with her life. During a scene where Jaime escapes from a burning building, Wagner was supposed to run through a controlled fire, hit her mark, and keep moving. Simple choreography. Except the fire spread faster than planned. Someone miscalculated the accelerant. The flames jumped the safety barriers. The heat intensified beyond what anyone expected, and Wagner was suddenly trapped in an inferno. She couldn't see the exit through the thick black smoke filling her lungs. She couldn't hear the crew shouting over the roar of the fire consuming the set. For a few terrifying seconds, genuine panic set in. She thought she might not make it out. Then instinct kicked in. Training took over. She dropped low where the air was clearer, found breathable oxygen, and crawled toward where she remembered the door being. Her hands burned. Her lungs screamed, but she made it out, collapsing on the other side, coughing violently, shaken to her core, but alive. The crew was horrified. The director wanted to shut down production immediately, but Wagner, once she caught her breath and stopped shaking, insisted they keep going. She didn't want fear to win, so they reset everything, relit the fire with better controls and proper containment, and she ran through it again. That second take made it into the episode, and if you watch closely, you can see it in her eyes. That's not acting, that's survival.
The standard bionic action, and occasionally there'd be an overlap.
Number 8. The show's creator, Kenneth Johnson, never wanted it to be a spin-off. He envisioned the Bionic Woman as a standalone series, completely separate from the $6 Million Man. He wanted Jaime to have her own world, her own villains, her own tone. But the network forced the connection. They wanted the built-in audience, the crossover appeal, the shared universe. So, Jaime's origin remained tied to Steve Austin, and occasional crossover episodes were mandated. Johnson hated it. He felt it diminished Jaime, made her secondary, kept her in Steve's shadow. So, he fought back in subtle ways. He made sure Jaime's missions were different, more espionage than action. He gave her a teaching job, a normal life, something Steve never had. He surrounded her with a different supporting cast, a different energy, and slowly, quietly, he carved out a space where the Bionic Woman could stand alone. By the second season, the crossovers became rare. Jaime's world felt distinct, and while she never fully escaped Steve Austin's orbit, she proved she didn't need him. The show found its own identity, its own voice, and its own loyal audience who didn't care about the man with the bionic eye. They were there for her. Number 9. The Fembots episode became a cultural obsession and a nightmare to film. When Kill Oscar aired, introducing the Fembots, female robots designed to infiltrate and destroy, it became an instant phenomenon. The episode featured these glamorous, deadly androids whose faces could peel away to reveal circuitry underneath. It was creepy, campy, and unforgettable. But behind the scenes, it was chaos. The Fembot makeup took hours to apply. The actresses wearing it couldn't see properly, couldn't hear well, and could barely move. The face reveal effect required practical makeup rigs that kept malfunctioning. During one take, an actress's Fembot face got stuck halfway open, and they had to cut her out of it. Another actress had an allergic reaction to the adhesive and broke out in hives. In the scene where Jaime fights a Fembot, they rehearsed it for days because Wagner had to choreograph a fight with an opponent who had limited peripheral vision and restricted movement. It was like fighting a statue. But when the episode aired, none of that mattered. The Fembots became iconic, spawning parodies, Halloween costumes, and decades of pop culture references. Pain, chaos, and hives. All worth it for robots that terrified a generation.
Beat on their own, but when the latches holding their faces on are made by Stellantis.
Number 10. The show almost ended after one season, not because of ratings, but because of a time slot war. The Bionic Woman premiered in January 1976 and was an immediate hit, pulling huge numbers and dominating its time slot. Critics loved it. Audiences were hooked. The future looked bright. But NBC, the network airing it, got greedy. They moved the show to Wednesday nights at 8 p.m., directly opposite ABC's powerhouse lineup. It was a suicide slot. The Bionic Woman was now competing against Charlie's Angels, the hottest new show on television. Ratings dropped, not because people stopped loving Jaime, but because they were watching three beautiful private detectives instead. The network panicked and threatened cancellation. Lindsay Wagner was devastated. She'd poured everything into the role, and now it was being killed by executive stupidity. Fans launched a massive letter-writing campaign, flooded NBC with calls, demanded the show be saved. Thousands of letters arrived daily. The switchboards couldn't handle the volume. And then something strange happened. ABC, the rival network, offered to pick up the Bionic Woman if NBC dropped it. They saw the loyal fan base and wanted it for themselves. Suddenly, NBC realized what they had. A hit show they were sabotaging. They moved the show again. gave it a better time slot away from Charlie's Angels, and renewed it for a second season. Crisis averted, but the message was clear. The Bionic Woman didn't fail. The network did, and Jaime Sommers was too valuable to let go. Number 11. Richard Anderson played Oscar Goldman in both The $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman, but he almost quit over one bizarre demand. The network wanted Oscar to have a romantic subplot with Jaime. Anderson was furious. He saw Oscar as a father figure, a mentor, someone Jaime trusted implicitly. Making it romantic would destroy that dynamic and, in his words, make it creepy. He told the producers if they pursued the storyline, he'd walk. They tested it anyway, filming a scene where Oscar and Jaime share a lingering look over dinner. When Anderson saw the dailies, he threatened to break his contract. The producers backed down immediately because they needed him. Oscar appeared in both shows, the connective tissue between the Bionic universe. Losing him would have been catastrophic, so the romantic angle was scrapped, the scene was cut, and Oscar remained what Anderson always believed he should be, the one man Jaime could count on without complications. Years later, Wagner thanked him publicly for that fight. She said it preserved something essential about Jaime's character, her independence, her ability to exist without being defined by male desire. Anderson just shrugged and said it was common sense, but it wasn't common in 1976. It was rare, and it mattered. Number 12. The crossover episodes weren't just promotional stunts, they were scheduling nightmares. When The Bionic Woman and The $6 Million Man did crossover events, both shows had to halt their individual production schedules, coordinate scripts, share sets, and somehow make two separate crews work as one. It was chaos. Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner were professionals, but their shows operated differently. $6 Million Man was action-heavy, shot outdoors, fast-paced. The Bionic Woman was more cerebral, character-driven, often filmed on interior sets. Blending them meant compromising both styles. And the actors? They'd rehearsed separately, developed different rhythms. Suddenly, they were expected to perform together seamlessly. One director recalled a crossover episode where they lost an entire day because nobody could agree on blocking. Majors wanted Steve Austin to lead every scene. Wagner insisted Jaime wouldn't follow anyone blindly. The impasse lasted hours until Kenneth Johnson stepped in and rewrote the scene to give them equal weight. The episode aired, fans loved it, but behind the scenes, everyone agreed, never again. Except they did it again, and again, because ratings demanded it, even when it nearly broke everyone involved. Number 13. There was a planned Bionic Woman and Wonder Woman crossover that never happened, and the reason why is stranger than fiction. In 1977, both shows were riding high. Executives thought combining the two most popular female action heroes on television would be ratings gold. Meetings were held, scripts were pitched. Linda Carter and Lindsay Wagner were both interested. And then the lawyers got involved. Wonder Woman was owned by Warner Brothers and DC Comics. The Bionic Woman was owned by Universal. The two studios couldn't agree on licensing, profit splits, merchandising rights, or even whose name would appear first in the title. Negotiations dragged on for months. At one point, they were so close that concept art was commissioned, showing Jaime and Diana standing side by side. Then Warner Brothers pulled out. They wanted full creative control. Universal refused. The project died. Fans never knew how close it came to happening, and the actors, they were disappointed, but not surprised. Because in Hollywood, lawyers kill more dreams than bad reviews ever could. That piece of concept art, it sold at auction decades later for thousands of dollars, a ghost of what might have been. Number 14. Lindsay Wagner was secretly struggling with hearing loss during filming, which made playing a character with a bionic ear darkly ironic. Wagner had developed partial hearing loss in her left ear from a childhood illness. She'd managed it for years, compensating instinctively. But on set, under the pressure of television production, long shooting days, and constant exposure to loud sound effects and explosions, her condition worsened. She didn't tell anyone at first. She was terrified the network would replace her, or use it as an excuse to pay her less. So she hid it. She'd position herself carefully in scenes to favor her good ear. She'd read lips. She'd watch the director's hand signals instead of listening for verbal cues. It worked until it didn't. During one episode, Wagner completely missed a crucial direction during a fight scene. She moved left when she should have moved right and nearly collided with a stunt performer. After that, she quietly told the director. He was understanding, adjusted the production accordingly, and never made it public. Wagner continued playing a woman with superhuman hearing while privately losing her own. She'd later say the irony wasn't lost on her, and it gave her a strange empathy for Jaime, a woman whose body had been altered without her full consent, forced to live with enhancements that came with hidden costs.
Cheesy 70s pickup line.
What's cooking, good luck?
Number 15. The Bionic dog was a merchandising decision, not a creative one. Max, the German Shepherd with bionic implants, appeared in the later seasons and became a fan favorite among younger viewers, but the writers hated him. They called him a jump the shark moment, a desperate grab at kid appeal, and they were right. The network ordered Max into the show specifically to sell toys. They'd seen the success of bionic action figures and wanted something for the pet-loving demographic. So, Max was written in, given bionic legs and a tragic backstory, and paired with Jaime for adventures. The problem? Dogs don't take direction well. The German Shepherd playing Max was trained but unpredictable. Scenes took forever to film. In one episode, Max was supposed to jump through a window to save Jaime. The dog refused. They tried for hours, multiple takes, different trainers. Finally, they used a stunt dog, filmed it from a distance, and hoped nobody noticed. They also had to add bionic sound effects in the post-production because, obviously, the dog didn't make them naturally. Despite the behind-the-scenes chaos, Max worked. Kids loved him. The toys sold. And the writers quietly admitted, begrudgingly, that sometimes merchandising knows what it's doing.
Boy, who also happens to have a bionic jaw, so the dog food might need to be locked up in...
Number 16. One episode featured a young child actor who would later become a massive star, and nobody recognized the future icon. In a 1977 episode, a young girl played a kidnapping victim that Jaime rescues. The girl had a few lines, cried on cue, and disappeared from the episode. That girl was a preteen actress getting her start in television. Her name, Drew Barrymore. She was barely known then, just another child actor grinding through guest spots. The Bionic Woman was one of dozens of shows she appeared on before E.T. made her a household name. Years later, in interviews, Barrymore mentioned working with Lindsay Wagner and being terrified she'd mess up her lines. Wagner didn't remember the specific episode, but said she always tried to be kind to child actors because she knew how brutal the industry could be. When fans rediscovered the episode decades later, it became a cult favorite. Not because the episode was particularly good, but because watching a future superstar as a scared kid being saved by a bionic hero felt like a strange time capsule. Two icons, two different eras, one forgotten afternoon on a soundstage. Number 17. The final episode wasn't supposed to be the final episode. When The Bionic Woman wrapped production in 1978, everyone assumed it would be renewed. The ratings were solid, the merchandising was still strong, and Lindsay Wagner was willing to return. But NBC pulled the plug anyway. Not because the show failed, but because the network wanted to clear space for a new lineup. They didn't even tell the cast and crew in advance. The final episode, On the Run, ended on a cliffhanger with Jaime framed for murder and fleeing for her life. It was meant to be resolved in the next season's premiere. That premiere never came. Wagner found out the show was canceled by reading it in Variety. She was devastated, not just for herself, but for fans who'd never get closure. For years, she pushed for a TV movie to wrap up the storyline. It took until 1987, nearly a decade later, for the reunion movies to happen. And even then, they never directly addressed the cliffhanger. The show just moved on, pretending that final episode never existed. To this day, hardcore fans still debate what would have happened if the show had continued. And Wagner, she still wishes she could have given them a proper goodbye. Number 18. The show's theme song was almost replaced with a vocal version, and it would have been a disaster. In the second season, the network wanted to capitalize on the popularity of TV theme songs with lyrics. Shows like The Mary Tyler Moore Show and The Jeffersons had iconic vocal themes that audiences sang along to every week. Why not The Bionic Woman? Network executives saw dollar signs in potential record sales and radio play. A composer was hired to write lyrics, something inspirational about a woman overcoming adversity and finding strength through bionic power. The result was embarrassingly on the nose, clunky, and dated before it even aired. Lines about rising above and breaking through barriers felt like they were written by committee, which they were. When the cast heard the demo during a table read, they revolted. Wagner called it condescending and reductive, turning Jaime's complexity into a bumper sticker slogan. The crew mocked it openly between takes. Even the network executives, after hearing the full orchestrated version, quietly shelved the idea. They realized what they had almost destroyed. The instrumental theme stayed, all moody synths and mysterious build, and it became iconic precisely because it didn't spell everything out. It created atmosphere, tension, and intrigue without telling viewers how to feel. It let the show speak for itself. Decades later, when the lyrical version leaked online through a bootleg demo tape, fans were simultaneously horrified and grateful it never made it to air. Sometimes silence is more powerful than words, and sometimes saying less means everything.
It's not really important other than to say rumors of her death were greatly exaggerated.
Number 19. There was a proposed spin-off featuring Max the Bionic Dog that was so absurd it became legendary in pitch meetings. After Max proved popular with younger audiences, the network briefly entertained giving the dog his own show. The pitch was simple. Max goes on solo missions, helping other animals and children in trouble, with occasional guest appearances by Jaime. It was essentially Lassie with bionic sound effects. The pitch was laughed out of the room. Writers called it the worst idea they'd ever heard. Even the executives who initially loved Max admitted it was a bridge too far. But for a brief moment, the network seriously considered it. They commissioned concept art, discussed toy tie-ins, even explored which time slot would work best for a dog-led action show. Ultimately, sanity prevailed. Max remained a supporting character, and the spin-off was quietly forgotten. But for those who were in that pitch meeting, it became the stuff of legend. The day Hollywood almost gave a German Shepherd a bionic television empire. And honestly, in the weird world of 1970s TV, it almost made sense. Number 20. When the show finally ended, Lindsay Wagner took one piece of the set home, and it wasn't what you'd expect. Not a bionic arm prop, not a costume, not even a script. She took a simple wooden chair from Jaime's classroom set. The chair where her character sat between missions, grading papers, living a normal life. Wagner said the chair represented everything she loved about Jaime. The idea that even with superhuman abilities, she still chose to be a teacher, to help kids, to remain grounded. After the show wrapped, Wagner kept that chair in her home office for decades. She'd sit in it while reading scripts, making career decisions, thinking about what came next. It was a reminder that power and humanity weren't opposites, that you could be strong and still gentle. Years later, she donated the chair to the Smithsonian's television collection, but she visited it once, walked through the exhibit, and found it displayed with a small plaque explaining its significance. She stood there for a long time, remembering everything that chair had witnessed. All the fights, the rewrites, the struggles, the victories. And she smiled because that cheap wooden classroom chair that outlasted the network, the executives, and every person who'd tried to diminish what Jaime Sommers represented.
Tracked to Universal in the early 70s, where she booked various guest shots on different television.
Bonus fact. There's a lost episode that was filmed but never aired, and the reason it was buried is still classified. In late 1977, the Bionic Woman crew filmed an episode titled Doomsday is Tomorrow, involving Jaime stopping a rogue scientist with a weather control device. Standard fare. Except during production, the CIA contacted the network. They claimed elements of the plot were too close to actual classified research. They didn't elaborate. They didn't threaten. They just asked very politely if the episode could be delayed. The network complied. The episode sat on a shelf for months. When it finally aired in 1978, careful viewers noticed something strange. Entire scenes were missing. Dialogue felt disjointed. Plot points didn't connect. Over 10 minutes had been cut from the original 48-minute runtime. What was removed? Nobody would say. The director claimed he didn't know. Wagner said she wasn't told. The missing footage was never archived, never released, never explained. To this day, fans debate what was in those lost 10 minutes. Some say it was just government paranoia over fictional science. Others claim the show accidentally revealed something real. The truth? It's still locked away somewhere. Probably in a vault, probably labeled classified. And The Bionic Woman, a show about a woman rebuilt by secret government technology, ended up having its own secret the government wanted kept.